Hey everybody, still playing catch up, going days here and there. Renovation project is really coming along, although now we're at the tedious part where it's making room to add a couple sections. Um, had a great, I know my last video was the birthday episode. Had a great birthday, had a lot of people reach out. I'm still getting well wishes to today, 2 days later. I even got a card in the mail today from the church, which I greatly appreciated. And that's kind of sparked today's discussion is, me getting this card and thinking about, right when the breakup happened, right, when she first, abandoned me, left me, the very next week I went to the church, you know, and that was about 2 months ago. And already, they think highly enough of me. Like, and I'm not talking like just a card. Like, there was actually like handwritten notes, which I'm not going to put people on blast, and because that's not the point. It's the sentiment behind it. But these are people that I barely know that care, and yet, when the breakup happened, there were people that were supposed to be my friends that not a soul came to check on me, like not a soul. I saw a family that was already obligated to be here for other reasons. That's it. That is it. Um, and that leads me to the discussion. Today's topic is understanding the difference between people that are good to you and people that are good for you. Because back in the day, I had these friends around that were here all the time. That was one of my big complaints was I couldn't get a day off, you know, from my space being invaded. But then, I could always be here for their bullshit. They had problems, I could try and solve it for them. They wanted to hide out from the world. They could come here and get away. Didn't care what an imposition it was. Didn't care what else I had going on. And that's just who I am. Like, I tolerated that because that's who I am. But then I realized there was no reciprocation. Like, again, when my tragedy struck, not a soul. And there's some people that I give leeway on because I'm not talking people that I only talk to once in a great while. I'm talking people that I am regularly in contact with. Whereas, again, I go to church, which is a place of people with morals, good integrity. And there's so many signs that just show the genuine care that they have for somebody that just showed up out of the blue to join their community versus people that I've been established with for long periods of time. We've actually been through some things together. But none of that mattered. So you really got to be careful. Sometimes we have these fond memories of people that spend time around us. But you got to question, just because they're being good to you in the moment, what's their incentive for being good to you in that time? Is it just to keep you close because they're getting something from you, or is it because they genuinely care about you? I had a lot of people that were good to me but weren't good for me. People that would, purposely not give me any kind of boost or I could pour in all these cups and give everybody else a boost up, but when I needed one, not a word of it. I could speak life into everybody in the room. Nobody had a word for me. And that's why I disassociated from that circle. That's why I quit hanging around those people. That's why the history didn't matter. The relationship, that was 11 years. So what? Big deal. Let it go. I would rather call that time wasted and give up on it than continue living the way I was, than continue tolerating the way I was treated. Time doesn't mean anything. How you're being treated, actions and words lining up, that's what matters. And that's what you got to keep aware of. And it's hard, because when God wants to give you a blessing, usually he'll send a person. But when the enemy wants to stop you, try and destroy you, they will also send a person. They don't tend to interfere directly. They tend to send messengers. And that's the trick of life, is getting your discernment up, getting your intuition up, so you can know who's sent from who. For the longest time, I really thought that this was, this relationship was a gift from God. It was, something for me. And that's why I'm glad that, she stepped away first, because I never would have, because that's how I viewed it. And then it was only after she stepped away and left me alone so long that I got my head out of the fog that she had me in, and I got to see it for what it really was. That was her two big mistakes. The first one was walking away in the first place, and the second one was being gone so long that I got to see the truth, that my life was better without the bullshit. I mean, admittedly, it's a little lonely at times. It is. I miss having, somebody to talk to every once in a while. But that doesn't outweigh the relief. The not having to put up with the nonsense. The being with somebody that constantly wanted my validation but refused to give me any in return. Like, I'm talking even scraps of it. Refused. I don't know how many times I said, hey, I'm feeling crappy. Can I get a little boost? Nope. But the minute, something happened in their world, nope, I had to be there singing their fucking praises. I'm tired of these one-sided relationships. Do not waste your time with people that are not good for you. If you're around somebody, right, here's a good way to find out, right? If you're not sure, if your mind has that thing where you ignore red flags just because you want the company, right? If picking up on the red flags isn't your thing, pick up on how you feel once they leave. Do they take jabs at you, when they're there? And don't get me wrong, I grew up in an environment where the joke was, if we didn't pick on you, we don't like you. And there's a difference between playful teasing, right? Which I know some people are against. And again, self-deprecation, you shouldn't. Looking in hindsight, I'm not happy that I'd participate in that either. But there's still a difference between gentle teasing and genuinely taking a shot at somebody and trying to mask it. That's cowardly. Dirty, underhanded. And it's the fastest way to show that you ain't shit. I had a buddy that was he was always in competition with me, no matter what. When he came here in my space, he tried to take it over. When we went out somewhere, he had to be the best at whatever we were doing, whether it was shooting pool, bowling. He had to be loud and obnoxious. You cannot, there are miserable people. They're always in competition with somebody. The only person I'm in competition with is who I was yesterday. That's the only person I got to be better than. That's it. But if you get people that can't just enjoy company for the sake of being together and shared interests, if they got to prove that they're better than you or get upset if you end up being better at something than they are, stay away from them people. They are no good for you. And they will never wish good for you. Again, they might act good to you just to keep you close. But they are not good for you. These are people that will hold you back every chance they get, because heaven forbid, they don't want to see you rise up, because if you might rise up above them, then that's no good. They can't accept that. And again, that's these people that live in a constant state of competition. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm constantly in competition too, again, with my former self. I'm trying to always strive to be better as myself. I cannot control anybody else. I have no competition with anybody else. I don't care about other people enough to be in competition with them. I really don't. I mean, when I say I really hate worldly things and the way this society has become, I am dead serious in that. Like, I really wish I had the capability to just disappear, because I would. Unfortunately, that's, not in my realm right now, but I promise as soon as it is, that's exactly what's going to happen. I'm very sick of this twisted society. I'm tired of the way that people think it is normal human behavior, because it's not. It's only normal because everybody's like that now. But people haven't always been, don't get me wrong, there have always been people that way, but not in the massive numbers that there is now. It seems the majority are the ones that are dangerous, that are not good for one another. These are people that don't believe in community. They don't believe in cooperation. They're, again, this whole battle between gender, religion, orientation, all that is people that are constantly in competition. My team has to be better than your team. And it's bullshit, and that's what divides us. And that's why they are winning and we are losing. Because everybody buys into it and feeds into it, and again, we'll act good to each other when we want something, but we won't be good for each other once we get it. And everybody walks around life thinking that's okay, that's how it's supposed to work. And like, no, that is not how it works. You got to have a little more integrity behind it. Actually, a lot more. People can't even get the bare minimum, but they're demanding you hand on the moon and the stars. Make that make sense. It doesn't. But you have too many people living in these delusions because they're so afraid to face themselves. Because, again, they hang around people that normalize their bad behavior. I did not really improve until I spent time alone. Because the people that accountability, the people that I attracted and the people I drew close to me were no good for me. And I accepted that. That's how little I thought of myself. My life didn't change till I realized none of these people gave a fuck about me. And I had to start giving a damn about myself. That's when it changed. When she was ready to walk out on me, and I saw that I was never, no matter what I did, was ever going to make her happy. When I knew all that time, all that energy I'd poured into her was wasted, useless, and I turned it around and I started putting it back into me, where I should have been putting it from the get-go, that's when everything changed. That's when everything got better. So be very aware of the people you have around you and how they treat you and how they act versus the words that they give to you. That's where everybody's failing one another and failing themselves. I gave up my entire identity to please somebody who didn't give a shit about me. I think that's the part that infuriates me the most. I understand that people are not built like me and they can't give as much as I can. Like, I didn't used to know that, but I've learned that over time. I know that I am special. I have a greater capacity than most people, and that's not a knock, and that's not putting myself on a pedestal. That's just things that I've become aware of in my lifetime. I don't expect people to match me, but I do expect reciprocation, and I was never getting that. They say they need me. I'm there. I'm on the phone. I'm in communication. I'm giving them support. I say I need somebody. Nobody. Crickets. when your friends are like that, you are better off alone. When your partner is like that, you are better off alone. And a lot of people need to start realizing that. You know, a lot of us are sitting here upset with our lives and we are, and we can't figure out what's wrong. You know why? You know what's wrong? The people you're hanging around with are sabotaging you because they are afraid that you are going to do better than them. Single women do it to each other all the time. Again, there's the thing on the don't take advice, don't take dating advice from a single person, because they will sabotage you to give themselves a better leg up, or misery loves company, one or the other. And that is absolutely true. Be very mindful of the people you're around and the people you let influence you. And be very careful of the people that you lean on. You know, it is not wrong. And, you know, happiness has to come from internally, from yourself. It really does. It can only come from there. But there are also times that we are humans. We are communal creatures. You know, we are supposed to be able to lean on each other at times. You know, when times are tough. We're supposed to care about each other. We're supposed to look out for each other. That's how we keep the species alive. You know? But everybody has lost sight of that. Nobody remembers that. Everybody's too busy. You know, I got to get them before they get me, and I got to look out for myself, and I can't worry about anybody else, and I got to get mine before anybody else can beat me to it. And how miserable is your life living that way? How unhappy are you with that mentality? Because I bet if you're honest with yourself and me, the answer is you're fucking miserable. I know I would be if I tried to live that way. Hell, when I did try to live that lifestyle, I was an NPC at one time too. I know just as much as everybody else. And I finally snapped out of it, and I knew I wanted better. And that's what I've been doing ever since, is creating better for myself. You know, a lot of people like to sit and talk shit and say, you know, oh, he ain't been doing nothing. No, I've been doing the internal work. I've been changing what's up here. Because the reality is I can't change what's going on around me. Unfortunately, right now I can't. But that's only a timed issue. I can outlive that, you know? And that's all I have to do. And it's not even that far away now. That's the part that kind of gets me too, is 11 years we were together. I'm about a year away from being able to... But then again, that kind of makes sense too, because if she is what I think she is, that makes perfect sense now, doesn't it? Because now it's becoming too real. That we're getting too close to it being a real thing. So now she had to back away from it. She had to sabotage it to make sure it fell apart, because that threatened her image and her safety of keeping up those appearances. Again, when people refuse to give you the bare minimum, just communication, to be honest with you, believe the worst about them. Do not give the benefit of the doubt. If they refuse, which she consistently, that's the only thing she was consistent about, is when I had questions, she would clam up, shut down, and go do her own thing, and fuck me every time. Every time. I finally had enough. I said last time that I'm not going through this again, and I meant it. I know she didn't think so, but she found out quick. And that's not just this that's friendships. Again, I cut ties with a lot of friends. I don't talk to a lot of people that I used to, because they were those kind of people. And again, that's accountability. That's who I used to be. I used to attract those people. I used to be one of them. You have to have that accountability. You have to realize that's part of leveling up. You can't just say, oh, I was held back because I was around these bums. No, it ain't like that. I mean, that is true, but it's not the whole truth. It's because that's the behavior you accepted around you. That's what you tolerated. And that's what you let become your lifestyle. Don't settle. If you know you want better out of life, don't accept anything less. All right, going a little over today, but I thought that was an important message that came to my attention. So keep taking care of each other if you can, any way you can, whether it be a kind word, a smile. It don't even have to be words. You see somebody across the room, a complete stranger, just be friendly. Give them a smile. That's it. That's all it takes. You can brighten up somebody's world doing that. You know, whenever I go, one of the reasons that I don't like being in public, like especially like shopping, is in crowds. I always run into somebody that wants to unload and kind of tell me their life story. And it's not that I don't. I'm actually honored that people feel that way, like complete strangers, like know that I'm one of those people that gives a shit. But sometimes the wrong people want to do that, and you hear some messed up stuff. And it, again, people that don't want to be good for you, but they want that bond with you because they see what you are. Got to be careful, especially if you're a good person. You know, if you do have an open heart, if you are kind and caring, if you do have empathy. You know, if you had asked me a year ago, like, I knew there were some bad people in the world. There was no doubt in my mind about that, but I was very naive. I really thought that, you know, people like that weren't going to get near me, and here, that's what I surrounded myself with. I had to correct that. And if you want your life to get better, you have to correct it too. It is better to be alone than it is to be in the wrong company. It is better to be alone than with the wrong people. I really need to hit that home. There's enough people in this world. When you step back and you take the time to fix yourself, you will attract people more like what you are becoming rather than what you were. If you keep hanging around the people that are like what you were, they'll drag you right back down, and you'll never go any further than that. You have to let them go. They might not even be bad people, but that doesn't mean they're not bad for you. You don't have to be rude to them about it. You don't have to be mean and nasty. Sometimes you just quietly cut ties and walk away. Just kind of let things fade on their own. And in a lot of cases with people like this, that's exactly what will happen, because generally it's you, the one that's keeping things even going. They don't want to put any effort into it. They only show up when they need something. So if you let it go, chances are it'll die on its own if you are not the one feeding it. That was another truth that I've discovered. Anyway, I've gone like way over. But yeah, I really want that to hit home. That has to be important. That is probably one of the cornerstones of this whole thing. You need to be around people that inspire you, not people that want to hold you back. You know, competition happens at the bottom. Cooperation is what happens at the top. I don't want to be low vibrational anymore. I want to raise the standards of my living and my life. And I'm not going to have that by doing the same old shit. By being around the same old shitheads. I mean, let's call a spade, right? Some people in this world just have no good intentions. And I get it, they're crafty, they hide it well. But as soon as you see it, do not look at them through the rose-colored glasses. Take them right off. Acknowledge them for what they are. Save yourself the time, the energy, the pain, the lesson. You can learn your lesson real quick. Quit ignoring them red flags. That was one of my lessons that I had to learn. quit ignoring red flags. The minute they act funny, done. The minute you realize it's not... Now, and don't get me wrong, sometimes things come up, and sometimes they can't be there for you when you need them. You have to understand there is a difference. But again, if you work on your intuition and your discernment, you'll know when to apply which thought. You know? There's times when they have shit going on too, and you got to understand that. And I get that. But if they don't even have the time to make a phone call when they know you're going through the roughest thing of your life, but they expect you to open up your space to them when, you know, they're having a minor issue, yeah, that is imbalance. Stay away from it. Do not allow it. Because every time you allow it, you are teaching others how to treat you. That is what you are inviting to yourself. That's what you're asking for. Quit doing that to yourself. I quit doing it, and I'm much happier because of it. All right? So take care of yourself. Try and take care of each other. Catch you in the next one.